Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll be reading from the sixth canto, chapter 1, continuing, focusing on verses 9 and 10, and we'll pack verse 8 into verse 9. So we'll chant verse 9. We're continuing with what you might consider to be a very stern section of Srimad Bhagavatam, introducing you to concepts of real human civilization that perhaps you haven't given much thought to. Sri Rajovacha Drista Shrutabhyam Yat Papam Jananapyat Manohitam Karoti Bhuyo Vivasha Prayastitam Atokatam Drista Shrutabhyam Yat Papam Jananapyat Manohitam Karoti Bhuyo Vivasha Prayastitam Atokatam Drista Shrutabhyam Yat Papam Jananapyat Manohitam Karoti Bhuyo Vivasha Prayastitam Atokatam. Vaishnavis. Sri Raja Uvacha. Parikshit Maharaj replied, Drishta, by seeing. Shrutabhyam, also by hearing from the scriptures or law books. Yat, since. Papam, sinful, criminal action. Janan, knowing. Api, although. Atmana, of himself. Ahitam, injurious. Karoti, he acts. Bhuya, again and again. Vivisha, unable to control himself. Prayashchitam, atonement. Ato, therefore. Katam, what is the value of? Translation. Maharaj Pritchett said, one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by people in general. And because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life for committing sinful acts. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, what is the value of such atonement? Purport. In some religious sects, a sinful man goes to a priest to confess his sinful acts and pay a fine. But then he again commits the same sins and returns to confess them again. This is the practice of a professional sinner. Pritchett Maharaj's observations indicate that even 5,000 years ago, it was the practice of criminals to atone for their crimes, but then commit the same crimes again as if forced to do so. Therefore, owing to his practical experience, Pritchett Maharaj saw that the process of repeatedly sinning and atoning is pointless, regardless of how many times he's punished. One who is attached to sense enjoyment will commit sinful acts again and again until he is trained to refrain from enjoying his senses. The word vivasha is used herein, indicating that even one who does not want to commit sinful acts will be forced to do so by habit. Pritchett Maharaj therefore considered the process of atonement to have little value for saving one from sinful acts. In the following verse, he further explains his rejection of this process. Translation again, Maharaj Pritchett said, one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by people in general. And because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life for committing sinful acts. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, what is the value of such atonement? Om Agana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Srimad Bhagavatam is for those who want knowledge. But when we speak about knowledge, we're talking about the complete package of knowledge, which includes rasa, flavor. Srimad Bhagavatam is saturated with the pure flavors of loving relationships with Krishna. We've often spoke about how this will become more apparent to you as you make spiritual advancement. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tad Vidi. If you want to know, then you must find someone who knows, just as Pritchett Maharaj has done. Shukadeva Goswami knows what he's talking about. Not because Shukadeva Goswami has invented something or concocted something and is then presenting it. No, Shukadeva Goswami is presenting parampara knowledge as it comes to the parampara, coming down from the ultimate source of all knowledge, coming from Krishna. There has to be some inquisitiveness to get that kind of knowledge. Otherwise, we really don't have a human life. There must be some motivation to understand what is going on. Who am I? And why am I in this present situation? We discussed, I believe, 2 weeks ago about Sanatana Goswami in his approach to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, although I have all the external credentials of being a prime minister, of being very educated, of knowing so many languages, and although people think I'm so smart, actually I'm a great fool because I don't know who I am and I don't know why I'm suffering in this world. If I don't know the answer to those two questions, then how can I be said to be intelligent? But you're living in a human society that is very convinced it's highly intelligent while it destroys itself. It destroys itself politically, economically, environmentally. It destroys its mental health. It destroys its physical health. But because everyone is so distracted and mesmerized by what they consider to be indicators of human progress, that people can't respond to the robbing of their human potential. There's no issue, there's no question, there's no controversy about how their human form of life is being wasted. So as you become more perceptive, you'll be able to see how lives are being wasted. The great potential of the human body is being trashed. You'll be able to see that. Otherwise, you may just look at the world and see, well, we are the spiritual people, and then there are other persons, they're doing okay. Actually, if you see through the eyes of knowledge, you'll see a catastrophe right before your eyes. I was at the mall today at a book table and just observing in between talking to persons, observing people milling back and forth. They were feeling, I can tell they were feeling artificially enlivened by coming to the mall. Yes, something to do, something to see. There'll be things for my tongue. Just I'll be part of a buzz, part of a crowd. Yeah, it's Saturday. Why not go to the mall? Have a ball at the mall. It's like, it's not simply for spending money. It's like a social thing, making a pilgrimage. Let's go to the Tirtha, the holy place of pilgrimage. It's like the thing to do in order to be re-energized and revitalized as you live in a consumer society. So it's actually a great tragedy that people don't know what to do with their human life. We can go over the preceding text, which tells you that before your next death comes, as long as your body is strong enough, you should quickly adopt the process of atonement. Otherwise, one's time will be lost and the reactions of his sins will increase. So think about that. Having a human body means that while it's physically healthy, you've got to think about how to counteract all the bad karma from this life and previous lifetimes. That sounds burdensome, doesn't it? What do you think? I got enough problems paying the bills, completing the uni, or trying to find a partner. And now I've got to think about quickly adopting the process of atonement. Otherwise, the reactions get worse. Where's my fun? So Srimad Bhagavatam has a radically different version of what human life is meant for. And the more you understand that, the more you'll be able to spot how persons are destroying themselves and destroying their society. Once you penetrate to the fundamental difference, the Bhagavatam says human life is meant for this. And everyone else says, well, human life is meant for you to find your own meaning, be your own light in the darkness, in the indifferent cosmos, which is neither good nor bad, it's just cold and indifferent. You've got to make your own difference, make your own meaning before you're snuffed out. And since you're going to be snuffed out, just accept that. Don't be a little kid inventing religious, spiritual stories. Just face the facts that you're just a blip in the ocean of nothingness. And be happy in that way. You can be happy in that way. Make your peace with that reality. Before your birth, there was just an ocean of non-existence. And after your death, there'll be an ocean of non-existence. So in between those infinite oceans of non-existence, there's this little blip that momentarily appeared, known as you. What do you think? So make your own meaning. While the blip still exists, fulfill yourself in your way. So Srimad Bhagavatam protests this kind of society. And as you read Bhagavatam, you should become more and more perceptive of this fundamental difference, distinction. We've talked before about the injunction that you have the human form of life, you must become self-realized. Part and parcel of that mandate is that you have the human form of life. While it's healthy, you've got to do something about all of the history of bad karma you've got behind you from this lifetime and previous lifetimes. So that sounds too much, doesn't it? Got enough to worry about. Why can't I be happy and do things my way? Why do I have to worry about past karma and erasing it, counteracting it? But as we're hearing in this verse, text 8, otherwise one's time will be lost and the reactions of his sins will increase. This is a, how do you say, subordinate point, that the more you delay getting rid of your bad karma, the more the effects, the bad effects increase. So the intelligent person wants to understand this, not just, oh. You want to get to the bottom of our existential situation. We don't want to be like Mrigari the hunter. Everyone remembers that from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mrigari the hunter had an encounter with Narada Muni. Narada Muni was walking through the forest and he was encountering one after the other half-killed animals, writhing in pain. So of course, Narada Muni is wondering who's doing such a horrendous activity. Half-killing animals, just letting them die a slow death. So Narada Muni kept walking and he came upon Mrigari, a fierce-looking hunter. And Narada Muni said to him, so this is outreach according to time, place, and circumstance. Narada Muni didn't immediately start with, look, you should surrender to Krishna and immediately follow what Krishna says. No, he said, look, can you do me a favor? And Mrigari said, yeah, what do you, what would you like? I got some nice deer skins. I've heard that sadhus, sages, like they need deer skins to sit on in their meditation. I can give you first-class deer skin. Narada Muni said, no, that's not the favor I'm asking for. What I would like is that if you're going to kill animals, kill them completely straight away, not half kill and just leave them to writhe in pain. So Mrigari said, well, this is the way I've been taught. This is my family tradition. So Narada Muni explained to him that by half killing, it's worse karma than completely killing. So this is outreach according to time, place, and circumstance. He didn't immediately tell him, stop killing. He first proceeded with an intermediate step. Look, kill them immediately rather than half kill them, and that'll be less karma for you. So in this way, Narada Muni introduces to this ferocious, fierce hunter, he introduces the reality of action and reaction, and that you have to do something about your backlog of bad karma. And then, of course, Narada Muni brought him around to the point of you shouldn't be killing animals at all in any kind of way. And the Mrigari, the hunter, was so impressed by Narada's presence, by Narada's spiritual potency, that he was able to give up his occupation as a hunter completely. But he was concerned. How will I support myself if I don't hunt? So Narada Muni told him that you just chant the Hare Krishna mantra and I'll arrange that all necessities come to you. So by the potency of Narada Muni, the hunter actually gave up his bow, which was quite a momentous surrender. The activity, the occupation that had defined his life, his material life, because that's all he had, material life, that was now put aside. Showing how he, due to the potency of such a saintly person, he abandoned his ferocious attachment. He had some practical concerns. How will I live? Often you hear that from persons considering the bhakti life. Well, if I chant Hare Krishna, how will I live? As if everyone's here is dead. How will I eat? How will I sleep? How will my life go on? First of all, they're assuming that their life is going on okay right now, which it isn't. And then they think, well, if I chant Hare Krishna and follow the bhakti practices, what will become of me? So what's become of you now? Even if you think that by taking up the bhakti lifestyle, you'll lose, you're already losing. So why not take up another path and try to win? No, you got to stick with the tried and true, or the tried and false. And of course, what does Prahlad Maharaj say? Puna punas charvana charvanana. Chewing that which has already been thoroughly chewed. So the elders of a materialistic society want the juniors, the youngers, to follow in the same footsteps, even though those footsteps don't work. What are you doing? How can you deviate like this? What's going to become of you? Just like Mrigari, the hunter, was worried. What's going to become of me? I've been taught. This is my essence. This is my sustenance. Hunting animals. Not only hunting animals, but half killing them. What will become of me if I don't do that? He doesn't understand at that point that he has accumulated such horrendous karma. So now you might say, okay, Narada Muni gets him to toss away his bow and stop hunting. So what about his atonement? What's he going to do to counteract all that backlog of horrendous karma? He's chanting Hare Krishna, just as you have the opportunity to chant Hare Krishna and deal with your horrendous backlog of karma. And of course, you may know the rest of this history, how the hunter and his wife lived on the bank of the Ganga and were chanting Hare Krishna in front of Tulsi Devi. And all the villagers would bring them all the food they needed because the villagers were so astonished. This ferocious hunter and his wife had become such wonderful bhaktas, such wonderful bhakti yogis. Fulfilling Narada Muni's prediction, you'll be taken care of. Just like after we have class Friday and Saturday, and then there's dinner, I'm just watching all the devotees, just absorbed in bliss, just chattering away, eating away, packing it all in with delight. And there's just no worries. All the worries have faded away. So similarly, for Mrigari, the hunter, and his wife, there were no worries. Although he couldn't materially predict how things would turn out. He couldn't do that. Well, how am I going to support myself? What's going to happen to me if I don't kill animals? And Narada Muni told him, don't worry. So the hunter and his wife obviously lived very simply, but that is the proper way to use your human form of life. Live simply and save time for your bhakti. Different devotees have different capacities in terms of dealing with the material world. So you can't get trapped. You cannot get trapped by social comparison. Well, this devotee has this size house, or this devotee has 2 cars, or this devotee has this amount of money. What about me? Everything is individual. The general point for everyone is keep Krishna's service in the center. And Krishna's service, of course, begins with attentive chanting of Hare Krishna. Different devotees have different money karma, marriage karma, which can change and go up and down according to the way the world proceeds. So it's very difficult if you just try to judge your situation from what others are going through. Some devotees have health challenges. Some live very simply. Others live more comfortably. You have to see Krishna in the center and not become envious or not become jealous or not falsely imitate. You have to see what you can do in Krishna consciousness. And that's different for them. It's materially different for everyone, although spiritually the same. Spiritually, the principle is the same. Center your life around Krishna's service. But in terms of resources, facilities, residences, bank balances, properties, cars, traveling, that varies so much from one family to another. And you have to be able to hold your own position in bhakti and not be overpowered by, well, I don't know, do you have that expression here, keeping up with the Joneses? You can't become overwhelmed by that. You have to understand your own situation, your own package, your own quota. Because if you falsely try to imitate someone else and you don't have that kind of situation, it's not your allotment. You may make a mess of your spiritual life. Some devotees are very simple, and that's their forte, that's their strength. Other devotees can handle more complications of the material world. But regardless of whether simple or very professional, as they say, the whole point is always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. That's the point. Someone's a dentist, someone's an engineer, someone's a developer, and someone's a location maintainer. Someone has a very simple job. You try to advance your material situation as best you can, as long as you don't jeopardize your spiritual quality. So that is the principle for avoiding being caught up in the race of keeping up with the Joneses. Well, such and such Prabhu just got this. Such and such Devi Dasi just acquired that. Why don't we have that? But maybe you've got the wealth of Harinam. And that's what Narada Muni gave to Mrigari the hunter, who was so worried about his material situation. Drop your bow, toss it away. Don't worry what's going to happen next. And so the people in the village, when they saw this former hunter and his wife chanting Hare Krishna before Tulsi Devi on the bank of the Ganga, people were just sending all the necessities they needed because of their extraordinary qualities, the extraordinary qualities of the couple. And so Narada Muni and his associate Parvat Muni came to check on Mrigari. And Mrigari saw the two saintly persons approaching, and he was running to greet them. But as he's running, he keeps running awkwardly, apparently. He's trying not to step on something as he's rushing forward. So Narada Muni asks him, why are you walking like that? And Mrigari says, there are ants on the ground, and I want to be careful not to step on them as I rush forward to greet you. So this is the former animal killer who left animals half dead, writhing in pain. Now he won't even step on an ant. This is the power of chanting Hare Krishna. By that chanting, he has atoned for extraordinary volumes of sinful activities. So the point is, a human being is concerned about this. How am I going to counteract what I've done? We spoke yesterday about how the word atonement is not very common. It's not in your vocabulary, right? You certainly didn't learn it in school. And I don't think any of you went to confession and heard from the priest that, you should do this or you should do that once you confessed your whatever sin you did that week or that moment or whatever. I don't think anyone here did that. Reminds me of an old blues song, Stormy Monday. They call it Stormy Monday, but Tuesday's just as bad. Wednesday's worse and Thursday's oh so sad. But the eagle flies on Friday. The eagles means intoxication. The eagle flies on Friday. Saturday, I go out to play. Sunday, I go to church and get on my knees and pray. Stormy Monday. Chicago blues song. Anyway, traditional. But it encapsulates the whole mentality of I commit sinful activities, and then I go pray, and then I do it again and again and again, and I go pray. And so Pritchett Maharaj notices this tendency. He's very sharp. He's very intelligent. And so therefore, in text 9, he says, one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by the people in general, and because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life for committing sinful acts. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, what is the value of such atonement? So read the purport. Did we read the purport already? Or? Huh? Okay, good. He's a manager and a sadhu combined. Rajarshi means a saintly chief executive or philosopher king. So he said, wait a minute. His intelligence is aroused by Shukadeva Goswami, because Shukadeva Goswami didn't immediately tell him, surrender to Krishna, perform bhakti, and that takes care of everything. No, Shukadeva Goswami, as we spoke yesterday, is kind of tantalizing Pritchett Maharaj. Oh, I'll try this. What do you think of this? Chew on this morsel. Tell me what you think. And Pritchett Maharaj says, this is not going to work. I have experience. I know what human beings are like. And he gives a twofold approach that human beings take in becoming scofflaws. In other words, we know we're doing wrong, but we can't stop. First, they actually see. In the Sanskrit, you see drista shutabhyam yat papam. By seeing, they see that a criminal is caught and punished. They see how people in general will condemn such a criminal. But also, not only drista, by seeing, but shutabhyam, by hearing, by reading, shastra, law books. So they know by seeing and by hearing, but still they're breaking the law. Pritchett Maharaj is saying. They know by seeing and by hearing, but still they're doing it. It's like he says they're forced to commit sins again and again, even after they've counteracted. They've done activities to counteract that bad karma. So what's the value of all this process of counteraction? So you might say, well, if there's no counteraction, what are they going to do? You just said you've got to counteract while you're still alive and your body is strong. So if you don't counteract your bad karma, what's going to happen? So you see, we're on the road here to Bhakti, just like Narada Muni in dealing with Mrigari. Narada Muni got Mrigari to consider that there's such a thing as sinful reactions. And he got Mrigari to think, well, what am I going to do about that? Remember, first Narada Muni got him to step 1. Better you completely kill the animals than half kill. You'll have less bad karma. And of course, that's not the ultimate solution to kill them completely. The ultimate solution is don't kill them at all. But then, of course, what about the dirty things in the heart that produce all these horrendous activities? This is what Pritchett Maharaj wants to get at. What is the process for dealing with the filth in the heart, which forces us to commit sins again and yet again? And in the purport, we heard that The word vishvasha is used herein, indicating that even one who does not want to commit sinful acts will be forced to do so by habit. This is the way it is. I was talking to quite a few persons at the mall today, young persons who were saying, yeah, I like to kind of get control of myself. Yeah, I like to deal with cravings. That's kind of the buzzword, cravings. Yeah. I told them, I understand, cravings are just eating you up alive. Yeah, got to do something about the cravings. In other words, they don't know how to handle themselves. Some of them can understand that we're just victims of uncontrolled mind and senses. But what do? There's no concept of superior desire. So I briefly would explain to them that you can't stamp out desire or cravings. You've got to learn the ultimate craving, the supreme desire. We were discussing yesterday, remember, that Pritchett Marge knows that unless people are informed about the non-material realm, they'll simply have aspirations to go to a higher level of the material realm, and that's it. Whether it's just moving to a better place in the same city, or moving to here or there, or if they're smart enough, which they aren't these days, moving to a better planet, to a higher planet. Without knowledge of what is the non-material realm, people will just simply aim for a higher level of materialism. That's the way it is. So Pritchett knows this is what's going to happen. So he said, Shukadeva Goswami, you've presented various options, how to go to the higher planets or how to go to the hellish realms. How do we become free from all this? Especially how to become free from the lower realms. So he's seeing the whole picture. And this is what Bhagavatam is giving you. So you might say, well, this is not our culture. But what culture do people have these days? What do they call culture? Animal slaughter, multiple hookups, gambling, lottery. And of course, what would life be without intoxication? So that's what they call culture. And because they're so trapped in such behavior, it's very difficult to take up bhakti. But if they partake of chanting of Hare Krishna and other devotional activities, in the association of devotees, the impossible can happen. We were reading the other day, remember? See if we can find it quickly. Unfortunately, the unintelligent cannot immediately understand Krishna's supremacy. Nonetheless, if they associate with devotees and read authorized books, they may gradually come to the proper understanding, although this may take many, many births. So what do you have going for you that things are immediately clicking? It's because you're taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya's mercy in the association of Lord Chaitanya's devotees. That is the expressway. What are you up against? You're up against habit energy. You're up against conditioning that makes an ordinary person commit negative activities even though you don't want to. What else can you do? You're caught in the modes of material nature. while thinking you're free. The passion and ignorance has you in its grip. And you think you're free. Well, I think I'll do this. Yeah, I can choose to do that. But you're simply responding to the dictates of material nature, which are pushing you, controlling you. So if people would actually understand how bound up they are, they would be able to benefit themselves. It's a feeling, or it's the perception that Bhagavatam gives you. You're bound up. You're shackled. Whether you're shackled by good karma or bad karma, you're shackled. And good karma sooner or later turns to bad karma. And therefore, we talked about how you're rotating, you're on a carousel. And you think that's life? We think that's life. Another old song. That's life. That's what the people say. Riding high in April, shot down in May. But I'm going to change that tune when I'm back on top in June. And what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Mudha janmani janmani. Birth after birth, you're a fool. So you have to take stock of your life. Take an inventory and decide, how am I going to deal with all my horrendous bad karma while I'm still healthy? What am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to attain in this life? Do I think that just by experience, telling myself, I'll never do that again, will I really hold to that? Or am I a prisoner in the modes of material nature? Now, Parikshit Maharaj is condemning those who try to counteract a bad karma with a good karma. Is anyone worried about that these days? No. I did what I did. It just happened. Things happen, you know. Anyway, I forgive myself. Have any of you ever told yourself that? I forgive myself. You know, things happen, you know. I'm good most of the time, but so how condemnable is our lifestyle today when Parikshit Maharaj is condemning those who try to counteract a bad karma with a good karma? We have no conception of that today. And still, Parikshit Maharaj is condemning what is beyond what people understand today. No one's concerned about atonement. No one even knows what the word means. Right? When we asked you yesterday, how many have ever used or understood or spoken the word atonement? Anyone? No one. It's just not in the dictionary for us in our common usage these days. It's in the dictionary, but no one uses the word because the concept is considered like Middle Ages. But even though the concept in Kali Yuga is so vitiated or so weakened and corrupted, there's a point to it, but that point's been forgotten. So people think you go to a priest, you confess, yeah, I went to a party and this happened and that happened. And the priest gives you, well, you recite this prayer 100 times and okay, I'm off the hook. And then of course, party time comes again and you're in action again. Just like the Stormy Monday song. So even that rudimentary, primitive understanding is long gone. Now it's just up to you to make the best of what. Do the best you can. Hey, what else is life for? But the intelligent human being is concerned. I've got this horrendous backlog of karma. I've got to straighten it out. How am I going to do that? And Pritchard Maharaj is saying, great that you're concerned, but let me tell you, atonement or counteracting negative karma with good karma will not suffice. You've got habit energy that's going to nail you again and again. I know, Pritchard Maharaj is saying, I know because I've been managing the world. I know human tendencies. I see it all the time. One is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, prayashchitam ato katam. What's the use of this whole process? So he's dealing with the lower layer of a real human society. The lower layer of a real human society, which you don't have today, is karma kanda. Counteract the bad karma with the good karma before your next death comes. That's the lower level of a real human society, but you don't see that today. So we'll go to text 10. Kwachchin nivartate badrat, kwachchit charati tat punaha, prayastitam atopartam manye kunjara shochava. Sometimes one who is very alert so as not to commit sinful acts is victimized by sinful life again. I therefore consider this process of repeated sinning and atoning to be useless. It is like the bathing of an elephant, for an elephant cleanses itself by taking a full bath, but then throws dust over its head and body as soon as it returns to the land. Purport. When Pritchard Maharaj inquired how a human being could free himself from sinful activities so as not to be forced to go to hellish planetary systems after death, Shukadeva Goswami answered that the process of counteracting sinful life is atonement. In this way, Shukadeva Goswami tested the intelligence of Maharaj Pritchard, who passed the examination by refusing to accept this process as genuine. Now Pritchard Maharaj is expecting another answer from his spiritual master, Shukadeva Goswami. So the term in Sanskrit is hasti snana, elephant bathing. The elephant, as you heard, enters the river and with its trunk bathes and then immediately climbs out of the river onto the bank and rolls in the dust, rolls in the mud. So this is a very graphic example of the process of committing sinful acts and then trying to cleanse them. So Pritchard Maharaj says, even though you're very alert not to commit sinful acts, you're victimized by sinful life again and again. So these concerns seem so alien, don't they? Like, oh, this is some kind of guilt trip or old-fashioned morality, or so Bhagavatam is instilling in you the principles, the concerns of a real human being. What about Arjuna in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita? He was making a partially correct presentation to Krishna. Oh, Krishna, if we fight this war, sin will overcome us. We'll disrupt society, we'll disrupt the Varnashram Dharma. So many women won't have husbands. Children won't have a proper family life. He was right from a limited point of view. But Krishna is telling him, even if you don't fight, these warriors are not going home. Now, sometimes persons who don't understand Krishna accuse Krishna of immorality. They look at three things in particular. The butter thief. As if Krishna is some kind of low-class shoplifter. What mesmerizes devotees and grabs our heart in developing bhakti, some people consider this is criminal activity, breaking into people's houses and stealing butter. They don't understand that the Supreme Absolute Truth has no material desires and already has everything, but he's stealing butter to please his devotees, which include the monkeys. He distributes the butter to the monkeys. So the older residents of Vrindavan, the older gopis, would go to Mother Yashoda and complain. Your child is doing this mischief, he's doing that mischief, he's breaking into houses. If he doesn't find any butter to steal, he passes urine in our sacred places in our home, and he's doing this, he's doing that. But they just love talking about Krishna. But those who have material vision, those who are ignorant, think, oh, the bhakti yogis are glorifying a butter thief, Makanchora. Krishna's giving those who have vatsalya praying, parental love of Krishna. He's giving them subject matter to relish. So that's what the older gopis would do. They would relish Krishna's childhood pastimes. Krishna's childhood pastimes are especially meant for those in vatsalya praying, parental love of Krishna. And then when he's between the ages of 5 and 10, that period is especially meant for his cowherd friends. And then beyond that, Krishna's activities are especially meant for the young girls of Vrindavan. And of course, Krishna never ages beyond a young man, appearing like a young man. So some persons can't understand it. They don't get it. Butter thief, you're worshiping a thief, a shoplifter. And then what else? The battle of Kurukshetra. They can't digest that. Arjuna was right. He didn't want to fight, and Krishna urged him to fight. He said, Mama Nusmara Yudjam Cha. Fight and think of me. What kind of supreme personality of Godhead is this, who shut down Arjuna's sound logic and reasoning and told Arjuna, you're speaking big words, but you're a fool. You don't know what you're talking about. And he so bewildered Arjuna that at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna said, Nashta moha smritir labda karishye vachanam tava. My illusion's now gone, Krishna. I will act according to what you say. This is what your Krishna has done. Arjuna was a peace-loving warrior. Krishna was, of course, pointing out, you can't be a peace-loving warrior. You've got to stand up and protect those who are being oppressed. So people accuse Krishna of that, number 2. And then there's a sub-point to number 2. Call it 2A. During the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna bent the rules. He bent the rules of combat. So how could he do that? You know, there's the Kshatriya code of honor. There's proper battlefield conduct, and Krishna at times violated that. But if you understand who is Krishna, the source of all morality, then you don't accuse Krishna of violating the very thing that he is the source of, he's the maker of. So everything depends on your understanding Krishna or not. And then the third thing, of course, is Rasa Leela. Krishna is dancing with others' wives. No, you're dancing with Krishna's wives. In fact, you don't even have wives. You don't get married these days. So these three things, mundane persons like to bring up: butter thief, Kurukshetra, and Rasa Leela. Without understanding the science of Krishna, there's no point in talking about Krishna. But they want to arrogantly present themselves as an authority on Krishna and make moral judgments on Krishna when Krishna is morality personified, dharma personified. So we've heard so much about the need to counteract our bad karma, our sinful activities, and how that can't be done just by balancing the bad with the good, bad deeds with good deeds. And we spoke about how even that primitive concept is not known in human society today. So again, don't forget Pritchard's concern. You'll be forced by habit against your will because of the dirty things in the heart. So he doesn't accept this first proposal from Shukadeva Goswami. Eventually, Bhakti will emerge as the only solution because it removes the propensity to commit sinful activity from the heart.